Ladies and gentlemen, please stay standing for the presentation of colors and the singing of the National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we've hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly gleaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chris Nordyke, and on behalf of the Richard Nixon Foundation, welcome to this magnificent White House East Room, and welcome to the Nixon Presidential Library. Please allow me to again thank the Orange County Fire Authority Pipes and Drums, the Honor Guard, and the Blue Eagles Honor Guard for that spectacular open to our ceremony. It was really, really remarkable. So thanks again, another round of applause. A couple of folks to recognize in the audience as we start today. We have Mayor Gene Hernandez and his wife Luis. Mayor, thank you for all you do. Council Member Tom Lindsay. Thank you, Council Member. And City Manager Mark Poulon. There's two other special people in the audience that I want to recognize. Patty and her husband, Patty Trentini, suffered a tremendous loss on 9/11, and I'd like to take a second to recognize them. Thank you for coming, Patty. Each year on this day, we as a community come together to reflect on and remember the lives of the 2,977 Americans that perished. Each of those lives has been marked with an American flag meticulously placed at the corner of Yorba Linda Boulevard and Eureka Street early this morning by the Young America's Foundation, a conservative youth organization keeping patriotism alive and well. They were here at 5 a.m. to place the nearly 3,000 flags out of respect and honor. Be sure you see the display before you leave. It's a moving experience. Also, to reflect on those 2,977 that perished, I would like to do a quick moment of silence. Today's also a time to honor the heroes of September 11th, 2001, and the heroes that continue to protect our safety and essential freedoms. The police officers you see here in the front row here, the police officers who put themselves in harm's way to protect us where we walk, work, and go to school, the firefighters who act as first responders, sacrificing themselves in search and rescue of their fellow citizens despite the danger, the troops who risk everything on the front line to prevent terror from reigning our good world. And they are the families who pay the incredible price for a loved one's service. We'll hear from some of these heroes in just a moment. But first, I want to ask that all the service members, the police, the firefighters, first responders in the room, and their families, will you please all stand and be recognized? Thank you for what you do. I know the rest of us are deeply indebted and do appreciate everything. Giving today's invocation is Captain Shannon Dong, who serves as a technical duty chaplain at March Air Force Base. Captain Dong serves as the assistant deputy chaplain overseeing and accomplishing the administrative duties of the chaplain's office. Captain Dawn completed her Master's of Spiritual Formation and Soul Care in 2009 and regularly assists with services at Riverside National Cemetery. Chaplain Dawn, it's a pleasure to have you.
Please pray with me. Almighty One, we gather here today to commemorate the fallen of September 11, 2001. This is not just a time of remembrance, but a time to give thanks to you for the many ways in which our country and its people have risen up out of tragedy and continue to thrive in the midst of continuous changes and threats to our freedoms. I thank you, Lord, that this country and its people have not been defeated by the events of that day, but we have and continue to overcome evil with good. I acknowledge that this would not be possible without your hand of mercy upon us. For as the song, America the Beautiful sings, truly you have shed your grace on us. Lord, healer of the nations and of our hearts, we give thanks for how you have brought healing and the opportunity to stand here today, knowing we can continue to live and thrive. For it is because of the efforts of the American people that day and since that your grace that make it possible for us to thrive. Lord, let us not forget. Let us always remember and help us to make it matter. In your holy name, I pray. Amen.
phenomenal. It was exceptional. Our first speaker today is the new chief of the Orange County Fire Authority. Chief Brian Fennessy began his career 4 decades ago with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's United States Forest Service and United States Department of the Interior's Bureau of Land Management, working the fire hotshot team. When I started looking into his bio, I kind of got this vision. I've got a 4-year-old at home, and I kind of got this vision of the film, the Disney flick, Planes, Fire, Rescue. He's kind of one of those crazies. Chief Fennessy has a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and has participated in hundreds of fire service and incident command systems courses throughout his career. Fennessy has also completed many specialized leadership training courses, including the International Association of Fire Chiefs Fire Service Executive Development Institute program. It is my understanding also that the city of San Diego has proclaimed Monday, April 9th as Chief Brian Fennessy Day. So he's got to be doing something right, I think, right? Chief, it's a pleasure to have you as our new lead of the Orange County Fire Authority, and it's a pleasure to have you as our first speaker.
What a generous introduction. And how about that choir? That was amazing. That was outstanding. Wow. Wow. It's an honor to be here. On behalf of the men and women of the Orange County Fire Authority and all of the fire departments in Orange County, I would like to extend my thanks and gratitude to the Nixon Library and Museum staff for organizing this event and allowing me the honor and privilege of being here with all of you on this special day of remembrance. I know that for all of us here today, and in fact for all Americans, September 11th, 2001 forever changed our world. Just as December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day, defined a generation, September 11th has shaped who we are, how we live our daily lives, and what we believe in. However, unlike Pearl Harbor, in which one nation attacked a military installation, this time an organization of terrorists, not operating under the flag of any one nation, attacked thousands of unsuspecting, innocent men and women. At 8:46, on the morning of September 11, 2001, an airliner traveling at hundreds of miles per hour and carrying some 10,000 gallons of fuel plowed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. At 9:03, a second airliner hit the South Tower. Fire and smoke billowed upward. Steel, glass, ash, and bodies fell below. The Twin Towers, where up to 50,000 people worked each day, both collapsed in less than 90 minutes. At 9:37 that same morning, a third airliner slammed into the western face of the Pentagon. At 10:03, a fourth airliner crashed in a field in southern Pennsylvania. It had been aimed at the United States Capitol or the White House and was forced down by heroic passengers armed with the knowledge that America was under attack. More than 2,600 people died at the World Trade Center. 125 died at the Pentagon, 256 died on the 4 planes. The death toll surpassed that of Pearl Harbor in December 1941. At the World Trade Center, a total of 411 public safety personnel who responded to the scene died during the largest rescue operation in history. The Fire Department of New York lost 343 firefighters. The New York Police Department lost 23 officers. The Port Authority Police Department lost 37 officers, and 8 private sector EMTs were also killed. This anniversary is about them. On a day when buildings fell, heroes rose. Then, on May 1st, 2011, members from the U.S. Special Operations Command executed a highly classified mission that resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden. Mission accomplished. We're here today to remember and honor the men and women who gave their lives so that others could live theirs. Decent, honorable men and women who never imagined 17 years ago that when they said goodbye to their children, when they kissed their loved ones goodbye and walked through that door, that they were doing it for the very last time. They did not know the horror that awaited them, but they confronted unimaginable fear and terror with a courage that has been summoned only by the truest and rarest of American heroes. On September 11th, 2001, our nation saw the face of evil. Yet on that awful day, we also witnessed something distinctly American: ordinary citizens rising to the occasion and responding with extraordinary acts of courage. We saw courage in office workers who were trapped on the high floors of burning skyscrapers and called home so that their last words to their families would be of comfort and love. We saw courage in passengers aboard Flight 93 who recited the 23rd Psalm and then charged the cockpit. We saw courage in the Pentagon staff who made it out of the flames and smoke and ran back into the answered cries for help. On this day, we remember the innocent who lost their lives, and we pay tribute to those who gave their lives so that others may live. These past 17 years also tell a story of our resilience. The Pentagon has been repaired and filled with patriots working in common purpose. Shanksville is the scene of friendships formed between residents of that town and families who lost loved ones there. New York, where the World Trade Center once stood, the sun glistens off a new tower that reaches towards the sky. Decades from now, Americans will visit the memorials to those who were lost on 9/11. They will see many names of the fallen, and they will know that nothing can break the will of a truly United States of America. One of the worst days in America's history saw some of the bravest acts in Americans' history. We will always honor the heroes of 9/11, and we pledge that we will never forget their sacrifice. Solemn ceremonies such as this will always be a remembrance and a tribute to both the living and the dead. Thank you, and God bless America.
Chuck, and to the concert ensemble, thank you very much. That was as well phenomenal. And Chief, thank you for the moving remarks. Very well put. You've had a remarkable career in public service, so thanks for what you do. Our next speaker, too, has had quite a remarkable career in public service. Undersheriff Don Barnes is the Orange County Sheriff's Department's Chief Operating Officer, overseeing the daily operations of the department's 3,900 employees and 700 volunteers. Previous assignments include Commander of Field Operations and Investigative Services Command, overseeing all operations as well as airport operations. Overseeing all patrol operations as well as airport operations, Homeland Security, and investigative divisions for the Sheriff's Department, and was the Division Commander of South Operations, overseeing the 10 contract cities that comprise South Orange County, serving over 500,000 residents. When I read that, I didn't realize that it was that many. But thank you for your service as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Undersheriff Don Barnes.
Sorry, Chris, I have to adjust this a little bit. I too have to compliment the choir ensemble. If that doesn't turn your blood red, white, and blue, I don't know what else will. So, yes, once again. And I want to thank the Nixon Library and Chris, your staff. You do a phenomenal job. This is, without a doubt, the best tribute to 9/11 in Orange County that occurs every year, and it's a privilege for me to be here. Thank you so much. And thank you for allowing me the honor to speak here this morning. I've had the privilege of being at the Nixon Library now for many years to commemorate September 11th. It is a solemn opportunity for remembrance and reflection, and we take the time once again to honor the almost 3,000 people who died that day 17 years ago. People who left their homes and families that morning and never came back. Like all of you in this room, I can vividly recall where I was when I first heard about the September 11 attacks. And like everyone in this room, I experienced a deep sense of grief and anger as the events unfolded, and a larger question loomed: what do we do now? That day, when it felt like there wasn't much that could be done, first responders across the nation did what we do best. We put on our uniforms and we served. I remember what it felt like to put on my Sheriff's Department uniform for the first time after September 11th. The sense of duty to the citizens we serve far outweighed the heaviness of that tragic day. I felt proud and I felt determined, but I also knew things would never be the same, both for our nation and for the law enforcement profession. In the years leading up to September 11th, law enforcement at the local level was primarily focused on protecting the community they directly served. Whether a small town or county as large as Orange County, it was largely thought that terrorism was primarily a federal responsibility and that local law enforcement's role was minimal. In the 17 years since, we have seen dramatic change in our nation's attitudes and concerns about safety, vigilance, and privacy. There's been a push to improve local police capacity to gather and analyze intelligence on targets and threats. The Orange County Sheriff's Department has resources dedicated to detecting and stopping terrorism in our jurisdiction. We participate in the Orange County Joint Terrorism Task Force, a collaborative partnership with the FBI and other law enforcement entities to investigate and mitigate terrorist activities. We also lead the Orange County Intelligence Assessment Center, known as OCIAC, a terrorism fusion center formed in 2007 to meet the need for information sharing among federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies and other public safety disciplines. OCIAC was built on the foundation established by the Orange County Sheriff's Department's Terrorism Early Warning Group, which operated from 2001 to 2007. Both JTTF and OCIAC have opened lines of communication with our federal, state, and other local law enforcement agencies. The ability to communicate openly and quickly, to share information swiftly and without barriers, has been essential in preventing additional attacks against our homeland. And let me assure you, attacks have been prevented. Unfortunately, we are at a time when current legislation is restricting communication between our department and federal agencies. This can only serve to return us to a pre-9/11 condition where local and federal agencies are legislatively required to operate in silos. Laws like this are poor public policy and put us all at greater risk. I say this not to politicize today's event, but to remind us all that we cannot operate effectively without communicating about matters of public safety with public safety partners at all levels. It is our duty as Americans to ensure that the individuals who represent us and legislate on our behalf are keeping the safety of the public of paramount concern. The public's safety is their primary responsibility. But if I have learned one thing in my 30 years in law enforcement, it is that the men and women who work tirelessly to ensure the safety and security of our communities will not let politics or barriers get in their way. We are trained in law enforcement to act. Often we have to act quickly without the benefit of truly being able to see the full picture of the situation in front of us. Certainly the 60 members of the New York City Police Department, the New York Port Authority, and the New Jersey Police Department, in addition to the 343 firefighters who died that day in the Twin Towers, acted quickly and heroically. They ran into buildings that were on fire and crumbling, pushing against a tide of thousands of people running out to safety, hoping to save just one more person. I can say without hesitation that the men and women of the Orange County Sheriff's Department would do the same. I spoke in the beginning of the nearly 3,000 people who died on September 11th, 2001. One of those people was 26-year-old Scott Michael Johnson. Scott was a securities analyst at an investment banking firm in the World Trade Center, at work when the terrorist attacks occurred. Just last month, almost 17 years after he died, his remains were positively identified by the New York Medical Examiner's Office. Utilizing innovative techniques, they are able to positively match DNA from his remains to a toothbrush his family provided in 2001. The chief medical examiner said they still work on World Trade Center identifications every day, and that more than 1,000 of the people killed at the World Trade Center still need to be positively identified. Their work is the embodiment of dedication and diligence, the fulfillment of a promise made to victims' families many years ago. President George W. Bush at a 9/11 event at the Pentagon in 2008 said, "One of the worst days in America's history saw some of the bravest acts in America's history. We'll always honor the heroes of 9/11, and we pledge that we will never forget their sacrifice." Thank you for being here to honor those heroes and their sacrifice, and thank you for keeping your promise that we too will never forget. God bless you, and God bless America.
Undersheriff Barnes, thank you for all you do, all you and your team do to protect us and take care of our community. We are indebted to you and your team, so we appreciate it. Our final speaker is a Marine Infantry-Major with over 24 years of service, both enlisted and as a commissioned officer. His career has spanned 10 deployments, conducted operations in over 60 countries. During his numerous deployments in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa, he planned, led, and conducted hundreds of combat missions under some of the most challenging conditions. Major Scott Huesing was here for a book he wrote called Echo in Ramadi, where he was a commander in Echo Company during one of the bloodiest battles of that particular war. And his book is told through the voices of the men that served with him. He's an incredibly inspirational speaker. He's a friend of the foundations. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Major Scott Huesing.
"12:46 a.m. and I was on the phone with my girlfriend, and the television was chattering slightly in the background, and I was in my room, and it was already Sunday, September 12th, in Okinawa, Japan. And I was a first lieutenant on my deployment. I was forward deployed in the Pacific Rim in 2001. And she asked, "Are you watching this? A plane just crashed into the Trade Center. And the first plane struck that tower at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we clung to the phone and watched as that tower began to smoke. 17 minutes later, another plane crashed into the second tower. It's a terrorist attack," I said unhesitatingly, before my girlfriend, now wife, could even get out another word. And I raced down the hallway at the barracks where the other officers in my battalion were, and I woke them up and I pounded on each door as their heads peeked out, most furious at me for disrupting their sleep as they hurled a verbal barrage of F-bombs at me. And I told them all to get in my room. Get in there. 2 planes just hit the World Trade Center. It's a terrorist attack. America is under attack. And a dozen of us stood there in shock as we continued to watch more death unfold. The towers, and at the Pentagon, and in a tiny field in Pennsylvania that no one had ever heard of. And most of us stood there in silence, and others ran out of my room to call their families. Some knew people in New York. And we were all warriors, no more than 25 years old on average. And we really felt that these events were going to impact us all. I had no way of knowing then that it would ultimately impact the entire trajectory of my career at that young age. I had no way of knowing how it would impact the lives of every single American that was affected by the events on that day that would ultimately be drawn into this war as a nation. And the hours unfolded throughout that day, and we remained glued to our television sets We gathered our Marines, and all of the U.S. forces that were on the island were put on high alert, and Marines with machine guns were posted in bunkers around the perimeter of the island and around the camps, because we had no way of knowing how isolated these attacks would be. But everyone was ready to fight. And there were no Marines to race to the aid of the 2,996 people that died that day. There were no Marines to defend the other 6,000 who were wounded on that day by 19 cowardly terrorists who managed to strike a devastating blow to America that day, to us, the American people. But we all wished we could have done something. That type of feeling and helplessness as a professional warrior is gut-wrenching. It's maddening to those who serve. But despite what I felt then, the next 17 years during this long war on terror would give us all more than enough satisfaction to honor those slain in the attacks on 9/11. Because like most who serve, we want our war, to prove ourselves worthy of our oath that we take. And it has become a haunting reminder of the maxim, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. Yeah, we did. Through countless deployments from the Marines and soldiers and sailors and Coast Guardsmen and Air Force, thousands more have died and more have been wounded. Friends and fellow warriors, there were no such thing as statistics anymore. They all became people we knew personally, friends and their families. But for 17 years, we have continued this fight to attack and kill the enemy as warriors. Attack and kill the enemy who waged war on America. And we were doing it successfully. Trust me, I have firsthand experience. And through it all, we've come to understand our own loss and our own sacrifice and bloodshed. Like those generations that fought before us, but now seen through a completely different lens in this new type of war that we are engaged in. And that fuse lit on 9/11 has kept this long war burning. But sadly, it has also become an inconsiderable talking point in mainstream media. There are no more daily tributes to today's hero on CNN and pictures of those fallen that we want to remember, that we need to remember, that we owe so much. Many Americans still fight and die to this day, still serving in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Horn of Africa, still on the fringes of cities under attack, right next door to us, in my own county, where we've witnessed these things. But their sacrifices seem to fade to back page stories and drowned out by politicians and talking heads who want to prattle on more about themselves instead of the real issues and those things that matter. And those who still fight in Iraq and Afghanistan, those people who matter. Warriors who serve to protect everyone's right, their right, to spout mindless rhetoric, day in and day out. And some Americans who will continue this fight, this war, were born on September 11th, 2001. Young men and women who will serve our nation next year from towns all across America. Some of them may be sitting here or here as I look. It's daunting to me to even think about that possibility. My Marines that I led in the deadliest city of Iraq in 2006 joined after September 11th. And as I talk to them to this day, and as I stand here before you, my tribe of great Americans and patriots and first responders and protectors, I think of those Marines who fought with me then as young 18, 19-year-old kids, who still serve today, who know nothing other than an entire career in the military at war. So I'm proud of all of those who serve, and those who have lost, and those who still grieve in every corner of this war. And the dead won't be forgotten by those who fought. And I only hope that it's through the wisdom of our nation and through the wisdom and courage of our nation that this country won't have to relearn those lessons. We won't have to suffer another 9/11 to bring us back together again as we were then and as we should be today. Because it is through this community, it is through our nation's diversity, as you look at it here today, it is through our will and our commitment to stay unified as a nation that will preserve the freedom that we all enjoy. That is everyone's call to action. Not just today, as we remember those we lost and those who have sacrificed, but every day. And it's through great organizations like the Nixon Foundation, and thanks to Chris Nordyke for putting this on, the Young America Foundation, who really give of themselves and time to remember. And for all of you here today, it takes a special, very special kind of person to get out away from your homes and make a commitment to share and attribute to those who we honor every single day. I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm honored to be invited back every time Chris asks. And I'm honored to be standing here with you. Thank you very much. Semper Fi.
I knew you'd do that. Thank you very much, Scott. That was very, very moving. You mentioned the how great you think it is to see all the community come out and participate in today's ceremony, and how great and patriotic it is. This is one of the Foundation's very special programs throughout the year, and what's unique about it is the community involvement and the support we get from the Orange County Sheriff's Department, from the military, from the Orange County Fire Authority, and from all of you. And I want to take a second here to thank Chuck J. and Mike Short and the Villa Park High School Concert Ensemble, the Orange County Master Chorale, and the Orange High School Concert Choir, because from the get-go, from the tragedy in 2001, they have been involved every single year, and you can all see how much of an impact they have on the program. So please join me in giving them a round of applause. Thank you, too. Thank you. Mike and Chuck, you are two very, very special individuals. And with that, we will end today's ceremony with the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Guys. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's ceremony. Thank you for coming. God bless all of you, and God bless America.